Do you have a horrible sounding blown automotive speaker? And that horrible racket, my driving intelligence community, comes from the front door speakers of this 2014 Mazda CX-5. It's got a BOSE system, and we're going to pull the door panels off to get to these speakers, but since this is a generalized repair of speakers where the cone separates from the speaker frame, we're going to do that first, and then I'll get to the removal of the door panels if you want to stick around for that if you've got a 2014 Mazda CX-5. The cone is pulled away from the frame, which is causing the vibration. In this case, this is a coastal vehicle, which I wouldn't think would have a big impact on this, but the salt air must be causing some rusting here, and that's what causes it to separate. So we're going to clean out underneath here to make sure there are no rust particles before we put the adhesive on here to make sure that this stays adhered for the long term. Ran an 1/8 inch bead around here, and then I just took my pinky and pushed it up against the surface until it squeezed out. And this adhesive requires 24 hours to cure. I've used this on another video, and I'll link that video below where I fixed the headlight on a Mustang. This marine adhesive sealant is flexible and extremely durable. Got fingers crossed that this is going to work. If it works on a headlight being hit by 70-mile-per-hour winds, I'm sure it's going to work on a speaker.
24 hours later.
Per the adhesive instructions, I've allowed this to cure for 24 hours, and this brings me to something I want to point out. A couple words of caution. You do not want to puncture this cone because you'll damage the speaker completely. So when you saw in the video that we were pushing this down, we had to be very gentle. We want to make sure we were only pushing on this portion of the cone, not this portion, because again, it's very delicate. And this adhesive, after 24 hours, is very strong. And now for those of you that have a Mazda CX-5 and you want to see how the door panel is removed, it's really pretty simple. It's a little pad here, and underneath it is one screw. We're going to remove that, which is the only thing that actually holds the door panel on. And then we got to do some disassembly here for the door latch. Now to take this apart, I'm going to use a hook, and there's a little plastic panel right back here that needs to be pulled out. With the trim cover removed, you now have access to that last Phillips head screw, which sandwiches the door handle mechanism, or this release mechanism here, with this cup against the interior of the door panel, and the interior of the door, the steel portion of the door. Now, when you take that off and you start removing the door panel, this handle and its mechanism are going to slide out around this opening in the cup. The cup will stay with the door panel, and the door mechanism will be hanging off of the cable that it's attached to. Here you can see the trim stayed with the door panel, and the door release mechanism is also loose because it's been unscrewed. There is where it screws in, and now all we have to do is disconnect it electrically and get the door panel out of the way. Installation of the interior door panel is obviously the reverse of removal. Just a couple of tips for you. Number one, sometimes this weather stripping may come off with the door panel. You'll want to remove that, install that separately so the door panel can sit down on top of the weather stripping. And also, this handle needs to be pulled through the piece that was still retained with the trim panel here. So you'll pull the handle through, and then you'll put it together as an assembly, and then you'll put the final trim piece in there on top of that. And also, this handle needs to be pulled through the piece that was still retained with the trim panel here. So you'll pull the handle through, and then you'll put it together as an assembly, and then you'll put the final trim piece in there on top of that. Of course, you screw it in with the screw to make sure everything's nice and secure, and that's it. And you should have a good sounding stereo once again after you do this. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time on Driving Intelligence.